Her phone rang, but her number was disconnected 5 years ago. She froze mid-step. The ringtone echoed through the apartment, her old ringtone, the one she hadn't heard since the crash. Her eyes darted toward the table. The screen was glowing, buzzing against the wood. Caller ID, her own name. She hadn't seen that number since the day they pronounced her dead. Beep, beep, click. She hesitated. Hello? No voice, just breathing, deep, slow, rasping. Then, finally, I see you. Her blood ran cold. She dropped the phone. It hit the floor, but the call didn't end. Instead, the screen began flashing, images, glimpses. A hallway, a door, a shadow standing behind it. That was her apartment. But she was alone, wasn't she? She turned slowly. Nothing. Silence. But then, a tap on the glass. The window. She rushed over and pulled the curtains. Nothing. Only her reflection. But her reflection smiled. She stumbled backward. The phone lit up again. New message. She's not done with you. Who? She reached under the bed, trembling, and pulled out the old flip phone. Her original phone, the one she owned before the crash. No SIM, no battery. Still, its screen turned on. It displayed a single word. Home. Her knees buckled. Not again. She couldn't go back there. That house was gone, burned to ash, along with everything in it. Especially her. But the phone buzzed again. Incoming call. Unknown. She didn't answer this time. But the voicemail came anyway. She played it. And heard herself. Her own voice, whispering. You shouldn't have survived the crash. He didn't want you to. And now, he's coming to finish it. And then the line cut. She dropped the phone. Its screen shattered. But the voice kept playing. Not from the speaker. From inside the apartment. A whisper from the hallway. Come home. She knew she shouldn't go back. But the voice, it sounded like her sister. Even after all these years, Hannah's voice still echoed in her nightmares. She'd been 12 when the fire took her. But that whisper, the one in the voicemail, it was her. Same soft tone, same fear behind the words. And it said, he's not done. Who was he? Who was trying to bring her back? The next morning, the messages were gone. The phone, silent. But under her fingernails, there was ash. And the scent of burnt wood clung to her clothes like a warning. She hadn't been to the house since that night. Since the night her car flipped over the guardrail. Since the fire. Since the headlines. Family home destroyed in mysterious blaze. One confirmed dead, another missing, presumed dead. That was her, presumed dead. She'd vanished after the crash, hid, rebuilt, forgot. But some things don't want to be forgotten. She rented a car, drove 6 hours north. Every mile brought more dread. Every road sign, more memories. And when she turned the final corner, her breath caught in her throat. The house was there. Not ruined. Not burned. Standing, whole. Alive. Lights glowed softly behind the curtains. The porch swing moved, though there was no wind. She parked at the curb, heart hammering. She tried calling someone, anyone, but her signal vanished the moment she stepped out. Even Google Maps said, location unknown. The front gate creaked as she pushed it open. The grass was neatly trimmed. The roses by the porch were freshly watered. The welcome mat was clean, but the word welcome had been scratched out. In its place, stay. Her hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. It turned, easily. The house was warm inside. Not cozy. Breathing? Like the walls had lungs. Like the floorboards listened. Hannah, she called out, her voice barely above a whisper. No answer. Just the faint creaking of the stairs. And then A phone ringing. A landline. Coming from the basement. She hadn't seen the basement since. She didn't want to remember. The smell of smoke. The screams. The man with no face. But the phone kept ringing. And her feet began moving. On their own. Down. Step by step. Each board groaning louder. Each breath harder to take. When she reached the bottom, the phone was sitting on the floor. Black, old, covered in ash. It rang one final time, then stopped, and spoke, without dialing. "He knows you're here now." Then darkness. And the basement door slammed shut. There was no light. But she felt watched. The air in the basement was thick, like breathing through wet cloth. Every inhale tasted of soot, of melted plastic, of flesh. She fumbled through her pockets. Her phone, still dead. Flashlight, cracked. But in the dark, she heard it. Breathing. Not hers. Not animal. Something slow, deep. Like a sleeping thing that had just been stirred. She backed up and bumped into something. A wall? No. Warm, soft, moving. She turned. A face, inches from hers. But not a human face. Skin stretched too tight. No eyes, just black holes, twitching. Lips sewn shut with telephone wire. She screamed, but the figure didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't breathe. Instead, it whispered inside her head, "You never buried us." Suddenly, the basement flooded with red light. The figure was gone. And in its place, photos. Dozens of them, hanging from strings, floating in air. Photos of her, sleeping, working, hiding. One photo caught her breath. Her, last week, standing in her apartment. Behind her, that same eyeless figure. Her knees buckled. She crawled to the corner. Tried to scream. But the house absorbed sound. Then, footsteps, upstairs. Slow, heavy. She rushed to the stairs, but they were gone. The staircase had vanished. Nothing but concrete and a wall. She pounded it, screamed. The landline rang again. Louder, closer. This time, it rang inside the wall. And then the wall began to bleed. Black, oily liquid oozed between the cracks. It smelled like burnt metal. From behind the wall, a whisper. "Answer it, or she dies again." She didn't want to, but she had to. She placed her ear to the blood-slicked wall. A scream burst through. A child's scream. "Hannah!" It wasn't a recording. It was happening, now. The wall cracked. Splintered open like bone. And on the other side, the fire. The house burning again. Her sister trapped, screaming behind glass. And standing next to the flames. Him. The faceless man. Wearing her father's coat. Wearing her mother's locket. Wearing every piece of every person that had ever disappeared. He turned to her, lifted a burnt phone to his head, and whispered, "One ring left. One ring left." That was all he said. But in that moment, the world changed. The basement split in two, not with a crash, but a silent unraveling. Like the walls had always been just fabric, and someone was now pulling the thread. On one side, her sister, burning, trapped in that glass room. On the other, the man holding the melted phone. Her skin burned just standing there. But she didn't move, because she remembered something. A sound, a detail, a truth. The ringtone he used. It wasn't hers. It was Hannah's music box tune. The one that only played when someone opened her coffin. But no one ever did. She was never buried. The casket at the funeral had been sealed. They said it was better that way. But what if she wasn't dead? The man raised the phone. Dialed. 3 digits. Not a number. Not a contact. Just symbols. Hash, hash, hash. He pressed call. Her phone buzzed. From inside her chest. She screamed, clawed at her skin, and felt something hard beneath her ribs. A shape. A rectangle. A phone. Inside her. Her body began to ring. She fell to her knees. The man walked forward, slowly, not in a rush, and whispered, "You brought it with you. You carried her death. And now she answers." Suddenly, the mirror in the burning room shattered, and from inside the glass, Hannah stepped out. But she was no longer 12. She was burned, twisted, but standing. And her eyes were not her own. They were hollow, reflective, like someone else was watching through them. She reached out. "Sister," she said, "it's time to go home." The basement lights flickered. The house groaned. And the front door, upstairs, slowly creaked open. Footsteps, dozens, coming down the hall. Not human footsteps. Not barefoot, not boots. Rotary phones. Hundreds of them, dragging cords behind them like veins, their bells ringing in sync with her heartbeat. She crawled backward. Nowhere to go. Hannah stepped forward. The man stood between them, unmoving. And then all 3 of them spoke at once. "If you won't call, we will." Her phone rang. Not from inside her body now, but from the air. It hovered, spinning, glowing, displaying her name again. She reached up to touch it, hand shaking. But just before she could, the phone answered itself, and her voice came through. Not the one she knew. The one she used to have, before the crash. The voice said, "You never survived. You just forgot to die. You never survived. You just forgot to die." Her own voice, cold, hollow, emotionless, echoed through the air. And for a moment, everything stopped. No fire. No phones. No footsteps. Just silence. The kind of silence that wraps around your brain like a cloth, suffocating. She fell back against the wall, tried to scream, but the air refused to leave her lungs. And then the house began to hum. A low, mechanical vibration, like a dial tone under her skin. The wallpaper peeled on its own. The furniture floated off the ground. The mirrors cracked, without sound. She turned to Hannah, but her sister was changing. Her skin flickered like static. 1 second burned, the next whole. Child, teenager, ash, flesh, shadow. A loop of death she couldn't escape. "Hannah," she whispered, "I'm sorry." The little girl smiled. But it wasn't a forgiving smile. It was understanding. As if she'd been waiting for this moment for years. "You picked up," she said. That's all he needed. The man stepped forward. Closer now than ever. And she saw. He had no features at all. No mouth, no eyes, no ears. Just a face like polished black stone. But voices lived inside him. They poured from him in overlapping echoes. Men, women, children, screams. "When someone dies alone, when the call goes unanswered, I collect them. But you answered, and now your signal is permanent." He raised his hand. Her limbs froze, like a call had locked her body. And then, all around her, the phones began to ring. From the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Inside her mind. Dozens. Hundreds. Each one displaying the same thing. Incoming call. Han filled up, pointing triangle H. Incoming call. Han filled up, pointing triangle H. Incoming call. Han filled up, pointing triangle H. She covered her ears. But the ringing only grew louder, and suddenly she remembered the crash. Not the one they told her. The real one. She was driving home, fighting with her mom on the phone, crying, not paying attention. And then, the impact. But she didn't die. She was pulled out of the wreckage by him. She opened her eyes, back in her apartment, breathing heavy. Morning light poured in. Her phone on the table, silent. She laughed. Shaky. It was a dream, just a dream. Until she looked at the screen. Call duration, 4 minutes, 44 seconds. Last call, unknown. She hadn't touched her phone. She checked the photos. The last one taken showed her sleeping. And standing behind her, a shadow. No face, just cords. The phone rang again. Only this time, you're holding it. Will you answer?